All right. So, hey, welcome everybody. This is the 10X Goals and Accountability Facebook page. I'm going to do a short interview today with a really good buddy of mine. His name is Dr. Scott Friedman. Scott and I met about a year or so ago at the Cairo Sushi Summit. Scott's a chiropractor, and he's also a big mover and shaker in the MLM world. But I'm going to let Scott talk a little bit more about that. But what I want to get from Scott today and share with you guys, if you have goals and aspirations of reaching a higher level of income, creating multiple flows and multiple streams, here's a guy who's done that. And so I want to get some advice from him that we can share with you and add value to what you guys are doing in terms of hitting your goals and keeping yourself accountable to it. So, Scott, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell the kids at home, first of all, who are you? What do you do and why do you do it?
Wow. I'm a chiropractor. Have been since, 2004. I graduated. Love it. My docs, I've been around chiropractic since 1991. I got introduced by a friend who I met at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny.
Okay.
And I just thought it was magic. It was unbelievable. I've never really done much of the snap, crackle, pop chiropractic. It's always been much more holistic, mind, body, heart, and soul. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I would never quit. It's just, I like helping people that way.
Right on.
And also network marketing.
Okay.
Been around that. Actually, also since 1991. Somebody at another, was it the same? No, different Tony Robbins seminar that same summer. Introduced me to New Skin. I bombed, fell flat on my face for years. And I don't know. I just always liked the potential and the freedom, the promise of the industry.
Okay.
Took me a while to figure it out.
Back in the day, what were the things that, well, let me ask you this. I mean, because a lot of people hear network marketing, multi-level marketing, and the first thing they go to, scam, pyramid, it's junk, like all of that stuff. So like,
Totally.
Let me ask, I mean, straight up, is it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
When is it and when is it not? Let's just handle that.
I think that's difficult sometimes to ascertain sometimes people's intentions. You could have a company with great intentions and they're just not well organized or well run. I mean, there's so many ways that a business can fall apart. I mean, we're business people, we know that.
Right.
But man, if you've got somebody who's running, I've had conversations with MLM pros. I mean, guys who've been around 20, 30, 40 years, not quite 40, but a long time. Guys who put together compliance departments, and they tell me straight up, it's like, Scott, if there is a well-organized scam going on, it's very difficult to discover. They said, actually, there was a company I was looking at last year that I got a stern warning from my mentors. They told me, they're like, Scott, what they say? They said, look, we don't know this company. We haven't reviewed it yet. If it is a scheme, it's going to be very, very difficult to know that without looking at the numbers, and you're never going to see the numbers. They'll never show you the books. They said the only way that you can really know, they gave me three telltale signs. They said, if the crowd of people around a scam is like, it's created a frenzy, like great curiosity. If people are being really greedy, and if people are prone to suspend their disbelief. They said those are three telltale signs of a company, and I'm not going to name names right now, but there's three telltale signs of a company that may be a scam. But sometimes you never know. I mean, I've had a rough history with this industry. Years ago, God, this is going back 20 years. I started to have ethical misgivings about things I saw going on with my upline, and very long story short, I quit. But that company got shut down in a federal class action lawsuit 8 months later, and the CEO banned from MLM for life.
Wow.
It was just my senses. It was just, I didn't like some of the things I saw. I've seen companies shut down, or not shut down, but investigated by the FTC. I've seen CEOs that were scum. I mean, literally stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that made me not only did I distrust the industry, but I didn't trust myself anymore. I didn't trust myself to be able to pick a winner.
So if you see, so for people that are looking at it and they're considering it, right? So there's a couple different ways to do it. Most people do it part-time. The research we've done over here in the Cardone world is there's like an 80% attrition rate for people that come on with this thing. They've got this idea, they got a dream, they want to create another flow of income. They'd like to have some part-time work and then maybe at some point eventually transition, right, to have the things that you're talking about. A lot more free, right? Residual income.
Yeah.
No inventory.
Correct.
So like there's a lot of advantages to having that sort of a home-based business. So if people are looking at it, well, so who are you with right now?
Prime My Body.
Okay. And what are the products that associated with Prime My Body?
Plant-based. Sorry, I'm looking at you instead of the camera.
Yeah, that's fine.
Plant-based wellness company. The flagship product is a hemp oil, completely medicinal hemp oil, like minuscule, virtually no THC in the product at all.
Okay.
Full health benefits. We just moved into a profound detox system. The manufacturer behind our products is a company called Quicksilver Scientific, Dr. Christopher Shade. So you're all welcome to go look that up. We've got a brilliant protein superfood, some other things on the way. That's the core of it. Plant-based, wellness, non-GMO, vegan.
So I've ordered some of the protein. I ordered it just the other day, and I'm looking forward to trying it. So
yeah, me too. I want to hear your results.
Oh yeah, you will. Don't worry.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
So, and I know, like, so just trying to stay in with the compliance and things like that.
Yeah.
How much of what you like? How much of your income comes from being a chiropractor versus how much of your income comes from Prime My Body?
At this point, it's all Prime My Body.
Okay.
I shut down my office a couple months ago. I was so I got introduced to Prime My Body August 2016. I think it was August 2016. Old friend of mine is actually the lead marketer of the company. We've worked together in other companies. And I took a very, very, very slow and cautious route. I didn't think that this was going to work, frankly. It wasn't even about the company. I didn't think that I was going to work. Okay. I mean, I've made money before, but I've just seen a lot of nasty stuff. And I don't know. I took the slow road. I kept my practice open. I held on to it for quite a while. I was ready. It's not so much that I was ready to leave chiropractic because I like what I do, but it's a difficult business model. I'm a glorified employee. I'm always trading time for money. The big thing was actually summer of 2016. I injured my back and I was hopped up in bed. And every day that what?
That's ironic.
It was humiliating. I was pissed off.
Right.
And it's like, and every single day, here's the crux, was that every single day that I was taking good care of myself and letting my body heal. And I mean, the first few days, I couldn't even roll over. It was such pain.
Yeah.
Every day that I was taking care of myself created the conflict in another part of my life, which is like, I'm losing money and maybe losing patients. And it just, I don't know, at that moment of my life, in my mid 40s, it was just enough.
So you were looking for a way to take care of Scott.
Absolutely.
And still have the income.
Well, that was kind of what hit me laying there in bed, literally staring at the ceiling. Just these words came out of my mouth. I vividly remember I said, I need a better way. I said, no, I need to find a better way to leverage my time and energy.
Okay.
But I meant it this time. I thought it, but this time I meant it. And then Prime My Body showed up, I don't know, a month and a half later.
There you go. You put it out there and it showed up, right? The universe provides. So let me ask you about, again, with how much of what you're doing or how much of what you're making off of Prime My Body are you comfortable or safe to share?
And that's for those of you who don't know or understand this industry, it's absolutely illegal for me, for anybody, to make an income claim or a testimonial or to attempt to bait you, with money. Very healthy.
I have an idea.
No, I can say.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say very, very healthy 6 figures. I'm looking at 7 this year. But what I have to say is that that's not a promise or guarantee of income. That is very above average for sure.
Your results may vary.
What is it? Yeah, your results may vary. And you may never make a penny. That's the reality. The only reason I'm saying this is to open the door of what's possible.
Right. Okay, cool.
Really
and I love the fact that you also stacked on it that you may never make a penny. So
that's business.
Right. And it doesn't matter if it's MLM or if it's you opened up a 7-Eleven down the street. The odds are you got to put in the work and you got to put in the effort. So
most
that's really why I wanted to
chiropractors
do this interview with you, because
business. So.
Yeah, and I've seen how the company and how your growth with Prime My Body has been helpful for you.
Yeah.
There's a few obvious things. Number one, you have to have a product you can get behind, right? That's an important piece, right?
I do. Not everybody does, but I do.
Well, no, but for you, yeah. But I think if somebody's on this page and they're watching this video right now, and you and I, like, people ask me this all the time, like, how do I know, right? Well, number one, you got to find a product you can get behind. Grant always talks about that. If you're not selling to some degree, you're not sold, right? So you got to be all into it, right?
You asked me about scams earlier. I lived in Singapore for a while, and I had some guys there who I get recruited, probably a lot because of the doctor's title, but I've done this for a while. So I had some guys there wanting me to be the doctor on the face of their company. We went out to lunch. I asked them, what's your flagship product, right? Like ours is hemp oil.
Right.
And they're like, don't worry about it. We'll slap together some mineral product. You'll like it. I'm like, no, I won't. Bye. Goodbye. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Even if I do, I won't work with you.
Right. Okay, so for people that are thinking about embracing this business, or more for people that have tried it in the past and didn't have the success they had wanted.
Sure.
The purpose of this interview for me really is to get three things that anybody watching this that wants to experiment, get into, start testing the MLM waters, 3 things like that they have to do if they want to see real success. And I think a really solid number for a lot of folks is, man, if I could find a way to make 10 grand a month, doing network marketing, I think for a lot of people that would be very, very helpful. It's a real number. It's legit. You can do that. I know a lot of people that are, and then some, right? So it's like, that to me is a really solid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
that was my thought too.
Yeah. And so I emailed you that before, and you had 3 really killer suggestions. Do you need me to remind you what those are?
I got them.
You ready? So what's the first one?
I don't know that I want to put them in any order per se, but they're all essential. You got to decide. I mean, like, decide.
Yeah.
And that's, it's funny, since you and I started talking about this a couple of days ago, I realized that, frankly, that is how we live our life. And that's what we do all day, every day. We decide to go to X place for dinner. We decide to go to this movie. We're always deciding what our outcome is going to be. Always. Yeah. I'm going to live here. I'm going to take this trip, right? I'm planning a trip to Greece right here. It's always a decision. Every fact of our life, nothing happens without us deciding it into being. The challenge is that we're really comfortable doing that in the parts of our life that we feel secure with, but not so much in the areas of our life that we're not so secure with.
Love that.
Thanks. I mean, it just hit me after we talked 2 days ago. So, I haven't made 10. I'll give a perfect example. When my sponsor early on in Prime My Body, he asked me, he's like, Scott, what's your dream? Financially, what do you really want to do with this? In my head, my first thought was exactly what you said, was 10 grand a month. But then I started negotiating it and downsizing it and rationalizing it, and all the pain from my past coming up in my face. And what came out of my mouth, I said 2 grand a month. And he laughed at me. He laughed hard, as if to say, Freeman,
come on, man.
That's a pathetic dream.
Yeah.
And what he said to me was, he's like, Scott, add a 0 to that. And I was, I choked on that. It was absolutely inconceivable at that moment. But
0 is a powerful number, though, isn't it?
Oh, big powerful number. Let's add another 0 to that, is actually where I'm looking at right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, my daily, and I don't think I'm breaking any laws by saying this, but my daily conversation, pretty much daily, almost every time we talk now, is show me how to make 100 a month. Show me how to make 200K a month, 300K a month. Like, I ain't messing around with this thing.
Right.
So, but the thing is, I decided that early on. I mean, actually, probably the first decision came when I was hopped up laying in bed. It was like, I need to do something different. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I don't have a clue, but I need to change how I'm leveraging my time, my money, my energy. And then when it came to this company, this particular vehicle, I decided early on what was going to happen.
Did you know how?
What?
Did you know how?
No, no clue.
So, and I think that's an important point, right? So because the decision and the details are two totally separate things.
Completely different things.
And you shouldn't mix the two together, right?
Yeah.
Grant says, commit first, figure it out later. You get up on the details, you'll talk yourself out of your decision, out of your commitment.
And a lot of people do. And I've done that a million times. You know, I decided, I remember I was standing in my bedroom and I decided that I was going to go do 200,000 a month. And I'm like, how in the hell is that possible? And it was even bigger than that. I mean, I was fierce. I'm like, I don't care if my sponsor's involved. I don't care who's involved. I love people, you know, and I don't want to leave anybody behind. I want my friends. I want my family. I want all the people that I love and care about to come with me. And that's their choice. I think this is really relevant. I just did a
train's leaving. Who's coming?
Well, it's not that. It's not. I'm not trying to leave, but I'm gonna do my thing, and that's the bottom line. I had a conversation with a gentleman named Keith Cunningham recently. For those of you who don't know, Keith was Robert Kiyosaki's mentor. Keith is the Rich Dad that Rich Dad Poor Dad was based on.
Okay.
Profound. And I just did a course with him recently, a few weeks ago, and a month ago. And I went up and talked with him privately. And I said, Keith, I'm like, you know, something that I face, that I deal with regularly, is that sometimes I feel guilty or ashamed even, you know, that I'm succeeding and doing it really well and other people may not be doing the same thing as me. I suffer with that. I struggle with that a lot. And really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. And I said to him, I'm like, Keith, I mean, dude, you've made a heck of a lot more money than me. You know, he's billionaire or close to it. I'm like, how do you deal with that? Or have you ever experienced that? And he looked at me, he was like, no. Like, I don't experience that at all. I felt like an idiot for even asking. And he said to me, this is really interesting. I mean, I was like 13 years ago. I'm sorry, Dad. And he said, Scott, he's like, look, 30 years ago, decades ago, he's like, I lost $100 million when my real estate stuff turned belly up. And he went into what he calls his ponytail days and, you know, started getting spiritual. And he said during that time period, he met a Hindu monk. And the Hindu monk said, Keith, do you know what would be the worst pain you could ever experience in life? And Keith is thinking, he's like, worse than losing $100 million? Right? And the monk says, he's like, no, much worse. He said, the worst thing that you could experience in your life is to meet the version of you that you could have been. Boom, right? And so Keith looks at me, he's like, Scott, I'm here to shine my light. And that's it. That's it. There isn't anything else. It's my life to live. And then he said, this was really interesting. He also said, he's like, Scott, and also that's not capitalism. He said, capitalism is not a win-loss proposition. It has nothing to do with that. There's no limitations to money. He said, capitalism is how big of a problem can you find to solve and how attractive do you make it for people? That's it. He said, the more attractive you make it, the bigger the problem that you're solving, the more money you make. End of story.
Want to make $1 million, find a way to help 1 million people. So
I love it.
First step, yeah, exactly.
First step, decide.
Make the decision. Okay,
decide your outcome. You do it every day anyhow. Just
exactly. Okay.
Second thing, I'm going to put these out of order to how I said them to you. The second thing is, I think you really have to have great mentorship and coachability. And one of my good friends, when I was looking at Prime My Body, a good friend of mine, Michael Jude, we were roommates in Boulder decades ago, when he was starting his MLM adventures and has gone on to be a top income earner, consultant to top earners to companies all over the world. So I called Michael and I'm like, Michael, look, I'm looking at this company. I know you're a pro. I've done okay. You've done way better than me. I want to get your opinion. Right. So even there, that was like an example of mentorship and coachability. And Michael said to me, he's like, Scott, look, hemp sounds interesting. It's a hot trend, right? He said, but the most important thing, Scott, is who you're working with. He's like, I want to know your CEO. I want to know your corporate team. I want to know your sponsor. I want to know the lead marketer on this thing, because who you're learning from and the lead that you're following can just absolutely make or break you. And so to that end, I feel like magnificently fortunate, to have the leadership that I do and that we do on the corporate side out in the field. And that's a whole nother story, but that's a major point, because here's the deal. Nobody knows how to do network marketing, right? Nobody is like born with like an athletic gene, right? Nobody's born like LeBron or Michael Jordan. It's like this is learned skill.
Yeah.
And we don't come from a culture that knows let's say we don't come from a culture that's used to doing this type of business. We're used to being employees. We're not used to being this empowered or driving the engine this much.
Right.
And so, I mean, gosh, so all that personal development stuff is huge in and of itself. But that aside, just the skills of how to do this and how to do this effectively, just like chiropractic, good doctor, really good doctor. I didn't know jack about business or marketing. And that crushed me for years, because I had never been mentored properly on the skills of running a business.
So check this out while you're on that topic, because I know we've got some people that are like legitimately considering, do I get into this industry? And so
yes.
To have a great coach, to have a great mentor, to have somebody that's been successful at it already is a very, very important piece of that puzzle.
Fundamental.
And as you start talking to other people about doing it, you're bringing to mind two really important like Cardone-isms. The first one is like the most successful people in the world all have coaches, mentors, people on the board. Nobody got there by themselves, right? They all have a team, right? But then the other thing, especially when you start talking MLM, Grant says, never take advice from a quitter.
Ooh.
So if we're going to talk, right, so never take advice from somebody who's already quit, right? So if we're going to talk to people about MLM, right, why are we talking to the guy that tried it, that had zero success, and then made the decision that it's a scam? What we should be doing is talking to the people that are successful at it and how they got that way.
Oh my God, fundamentally.
Right.
I've always been, Tony Robbins says a similar thing in another way. He says success leaves clues. And I've always, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I've always been such a big advocate in my own life of learning from people who've done what I've done. Even years ago, I was a dancer, considering going professional. And I went and saw Mikhail Baryshnikov perform in Los Angeles with the White Oak Dance Company. It's just unbelievable. And
I didn't know that, by the way.
Yeah.
Something new.
Yeah. And so I went to the ushers after the show and I said, I'm here to meet one of the dancers. I'm just wondering where they're coming out. I didn't tell them that I want to go meet Mikhail Baryshnikov. I was just finding a way to get there. They told me to go to the door outside, and I had all these questions, all this NLP type of stuff I wanted to ask him and learn from him. But when I positioned myself at the end of the line so that when he got to his limo, there was his limo door and me. He had to turn to see me, right? I was positioning the conversation. But when he got to me, man, that he was dead tired, wiped out. And I couldn't do that to him. It was too disrespectful to try and bombard him with questions or engage him. And I just looked at him and I just thanked him, like to his soul, and we shook hands and he grabbed my arm and appreciated it and just shook my hand. The depth and the intensity of that handshake and his eyes and that man forever changed me.
Wow. And
I probably learned more, talk about mentorship. I probably learned more in that moment than anything that he could have spoken out of his mouth. So I really have taken a lot of time in my life, just in the MLM spectrum. I've tried to count them up some nights laying in bed, like how many 6 and 7 and maybe 8, probably 8-figure, actually 8, yeah. 6 and 7 and 8-figure earners I've had as friends and as mentors, because I seek them out. If I'm gonna do this, let's go get the skills.
Yeah.
And then I just try to consolidate it so that I can teach it really simply and really effectively.
And you're bleeding into the third step.
I am bleeding into the third. I'm bleeding out. So should we transition to that one?
Yeah.
The third one the third key, what the heck is the third key, I think, and I mean, there's so many things that we could choose from,
Right.
but I think the third key to what your question was, what are the three keys to making 10 grand a month in MLM?
Right.
I think you got to be the model of duplication.
Okay.
Have to be the model of a model. And there's so many elements and so many aspects to that.
You said earlier, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Is when you say model of duplication, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think so. I mean, I look at any big successful business on the planet. What they've done is they found some kind of system or strategy or series of tactics that work, and then they replicate it. You know, that's Best Buy, that's McDonald's. I mean, that's like the ultimate original big model, right, of duplication. Target, Trader Joe's, United Airlines, South, whatever. And they all found some kind of strategy that they like and it works for them. And then they just plop it all around the world. So it's the same thing with network marketing. We want to duplicate skills, but the challenge, the inborn challenge is that first off, nobody knows how to do it, or very few. And second off, this is one of the biggest challenges, I think, is that we are all independent contractors. You know, nobody has to be here. There's no employee handbook. There's no manual. There's no consequence. There's none of that stuff. So how do you teach and replicate the skills so that other people can hopefully, ideally, of course, be successful, especially because my success is predicated upon theirs.
Right.
How do we do that in a way where there's no like accountability, you know? And
you got to be accountability on that.
I got to be the accountability, of course, without being a jerk, because, you know, I can't say, oh, you know, if you don't do this, you're fired.
Right.
It's a different means of accountability and communication. So for myself, it appears that the best possible thing I can do, really, David, is be a great parent. You know, be the model of who I want them to be. I joke with my team. I tell them, I'm like, look, if you want your kids to be a vegetarian, probably not a good idea to go suck down a steak every night.
Right.
You know, it's inconsistent.
When I was a kid, they'd be like, don't smoke. It's horrible for you.
And then eventually it was, don't smoke.
Right.
No, I'm
don't
kidding.
smoke. It's horrible for you. You know, and you know,
right. It doesn't work.
You know, don't get caught up in this, you know. So long story short, I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day for 15 years.
Absolutely.
On their advice.
I've had an issue with weight my whole life. I'm kind of finally really kind of getting through it now. But you know, I watched my dad go up and down and cycle and cycle. It's still to this day. He goes back. T. Harv Eker, so brilliant.
Yeah.
T. Harv Eker used to say that, you know, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I remember him telling the story of how I'll come back to the model thing in just a second, but how his T. Harv made a ton of money, then he'd lose a ton of money, lose a ton of money. I think he's still going through that cycle, frankly. I hope not, but I think he is. But he told the story of, well, I forget what his dad's career was, but whatever, maybe like farming or something like that, whatever it was, they'd have a boom once a year and they'd be rich like kings. But his parents didn't manage it very well. And so by the end of the year, before the next big hit, then they'd be in poverty again.
Right.
And it took Harv a couple like big wins and losses to start to figure that out, and then ultimately start to grow and hopefully to heal that.
So I think a good subcategory then would be, so, you know, one of the things that we talk about a lot, in fact, Grant talks about it, and then, you know, Russell Brunson talks about it both times at 10X GrowthCon, where, you know, like success is no different than any other skill, right?
Yeah.
Identify the successful actions of other people, right? And duplicate it, and then you can have the success. And I think if you go even as far back as, I can't remember where I initially heard this, but like the way for the longest time, people thought skiing was just, you could either ski or you couldn't. People started filming top skiers ski. They're like, hey, they're all doing the same shit. So if we duplicate that, and then that's what opened up the ability for like people to learn how to ski, was they actually recognized there's some very specific things each of these great skiers were doing that we can do too, right? So when you look at that, is there any, just so people that are thinking about getting on with some kind of MLM? Are there some specific things that they can start thinking about? Hey, if I do this, if I do that, if I do that, they can start planning, plugging in the details. They've made the decision. They've found some great mentors. They're willing to duplicate. They'll put their ego aside and just do what they're told enough to get the success. What are some things that they would need to do?
I think that these are some of the core key things that need to be duplicated. First off, the initial pitch, the initial introduction, short. I mean, we're talking 2, 3, 4 minutes,
Okay.
if that. You know, when we got started, I know my sponsor, he used to send some, now this is really an extreme, but he used to send some of his buddies a text that says, Hemp, network marketing, call me. It's effective.
Yeah.
That's his personality and those relationships. Here's the thing, the intro has to be short, because in the back of people's minds, they're already a little wary of being pitched.
Yep.
You know, and they're already evaluating whether they want to do this or not. And so they're going to be sitting here saying, do I have time for this? Do I have interest for this? Do I have confidence? Can I do this? So if I just come along and say, hey, look, you know, started working with a new company. I'm just giving you guys an example to model. Yep. Plant-based wellness. Are you familiar with the benefits of hemp oil? Or are you familiar with the benefits of detoxification, which is a profound new product? I'm gonna get where their headspace is. Okay, cool. Well, look, I was thinking of you. You know, for whatever X or Y, Z reason, you know, your back hurts, you need some more money, your spouse is moody, you know, whatever it is. I was thinking of you. Like there's sincere. I mean, for me, it's real. There's sincere contribution here. Are you open? That's a huge question. Are you open? Can I send you something to look at?
Yep.
And, you know, we have trust with each other. We have enough trust. And that's it. That might be my whole thing. I'm like, great. I'm going to send you my website. I'll send you this 2-minute video. Take a look on Google. When's good for us to reconnect, tonight or tomorrow? I could be on and off the phone that fast, which leads me to 2 other, I think, really key principles and the co-founder of my company said this to me. It's huge for me. He said, Scott, it's much more important to create curiosity than it is to inform people. At least in the beginning. Get them curious. And related to that is, I think it's much more effective to be attractive than to be trying to promote.
Okay, so I'm taking notes here. So create curiosity.
Instead of informing. Because look, dude, I could go off for hours on all the health benefits of hemp and cannabis and blah, 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 blah. But first off, who has time for that? And I'm just going to overwhelm people. And in their mind, they'll be thinking, do I need to know all that? I can't do that. So let's just keep it simple. I have told people before, I said, look, you know how to do this, flirt with them.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't cross sexual bounds. That's not what I'm talking about. But just to get the concept.
Right.
Let's make it interesting. Let's make it attractive. My sponsor, he did not give a crap whether I did this or not. Personally, of course, for my benefit, you know, he knew it would be beneficial to me. But he didn't care if I came or went. He's still going to do it. And there was something so sexy about that. Not him, but there was something so attractive about his confidence and his certainty and his belief and the decision that he had made. So
that's profound right there. And that's a general sales lesson across the board.
Yeah.
Right? You want somebody's business, but if you come across as needy.
Dating advice 101.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I joke, I make that relationship analogy, but it's absolutely dead serious. So I would say, keep it short, keep it attractive, establish curiosity, and then it ties back in, but you got to use your mentorship. Have to use, ideally, your upline.
So you get the curiosity, then what?
Well, you get curiosity, and then I take it away from them. So I say, when can we reconnect? Tonight or tomorrow? Tomorrow, great. Let's get back on the phone. Oh, wow. What did you like? You know, I don't say, what did you think? I was, what did you like? It's a directed but semi-open question. And then, like, do you have any questions? And that's when all the crap's going to come out, right? Anything they're concerned about. I'd be like, you know what? Great question. We're friends. You know, you probably don't know me in this capacity. I don't want to screw this up for you. I just did this with my stepbrother the other day.
Yeah.
And I told him the truth. So I said, Jay, I'm like, look, you've seen me fail. Now you're seeing me succeed. I really don't even want you to base this on me. I've got a friend who's in the same industry of insurance as you, but he's working with us. Can I hook up a conversation, so you guys can talk, or I would say, the gentleman that I'm working about, he's sold hundreds of millions of dollars. He's actually 8-figure earner in this industry. I don't want you to base this on me. Let's have a conversation with him. So hooking up that 3-way call or using some sort of expert's essential. This is the model. I learned this 20-something years ago, is that we call it trust and respect. We have trust in our relationships, right, to whatever degree. But they do not respect us as experts in network marketing or whatever the product is that we're selling. Even if we are experts, there's still the familiarity factor, which is that a prophet's never recognized in his own hometown, ever. Yeah. I have all 5-star reviews on Yelp, except for my stepbrother gave me 4 stars and he's never been to my office. Sure. Right? But that's how it goes. So we have trust with people, but we don't have their respect. Yes. So we need to bring in a third-party expert to create the credibility. And that could be anything. That could be, there's the low-hanging fruit, and then we get deeper, right? There's the first date, and then there's the 5th date. So a 2-minute video, short and simple. My website, Google, really short, simple, low-hanging fruit. PubMed research, for my company. Right. And then they get in a little bit more. In marketing, they call it a touch. You have to have 3 to 7 touches before people really consider it to take it seriously. But a more escalated touch.
He talks about that in Sell or Be Sold. People don't believe what they
not at all.
What they see, right? So, the third-party validation is incredibly important, especially when there is a trust issue.
Absolutely. And people already have trust issues with network marketing. Yeah. And many people have trust issues with hemp. I did. I've never used. I didn't understand there was a medicinal benefit. So Jake, my sponsor, has been fond of saying that I was a royal pain in the ass when I got started because of of how secure I needed to feel, I mean, he's kind of joking. He just has a different style, but I needed to experience it myself. I experimented with patients. I was lucky I could do that. I did the PubMed research. I called legal. I made sure that I could get my footing underneath me. And part of why I did that is because I knew I was going to come out and serve other people. So I had to be secure. Otherwise, why would they trust me?
And you got to be totally certain. So, let's wrap this up and sort of recap a little bit. So the first thing we talked about is make the decision to make the 10 grand a month. You have to make that decision. The details will iron themselves out accordingly. Second thing is you got to go get yourself a good coach, great mentorship, people that have already been successful at it, right? Get that. And the third thing is find a process that, number one, works, that's successful, that you can duplicate. And your duplication tips were amazing. I'm not even going to recap those. So if you didn't get them, folks, rewind it, watch it again.
Last thing, first off, you communicate magnificently. You synopsize that just like crystal clear.
I was taking.
Thank you for doing that. What did you say?
I was taking notes.
No, but you have an ability. You do that really, really well. Thank you. But what I wanted to say, shoot, I'm gonna have to take this in a second. On what I heard when you were recapping that is the decision creates a vacuum that has to be filled by definition of nature, right? The decision, it creates an emptiness of like, wow, what's going to happen and how's that going to happen? Well, there's that great Goethe quote. I don't remember what it is, but like, oh man, what is it? Like once you decide and commit, like the universe. Yeah. So that's real. At least in my experience. So
I'll paste
this is brilliant, man. Thank you for doing this.
If people want to take a deeper exploration at Prime My Body as a vehicle to enter MLM, and they want you to be their coach or mentor, how do they reach out to you?
Wow.
How do they find you? Where are you at?
I guess I got to set up a new service. 714-914-3243. Okay. Email is Dr. Scott Freeman with a DR, SCOTT FREEMAN @gmail. Okay. I'm pretty much going to be in Israel and Greece and Germany for the summer, but whatever. I got my phone on me, so.
Okay. And then are you on social? I mean, if they just want to hit you up on the Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook. I don't really use a terrible businessman, right? I don't really use LinkedIn or Twitter that much. Facebook's easy.
Okay.
Phone, email, text is easy. Really, really easy. I've got my international plan set up. I'll have Wi-Fi. So
I'm really envious of you that you're going there. It's that whole region is on my bucket list, and I can't wait to get there myself.
well, let's talk. I'll pick you something up.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
David.
Thank you so much for doing this. I think you just helped a shit ton of people. So
I hope so.
And folks, if there's anything you guys need, so some of the things that Scott talked about, just as I wrap this up, there's an opening pitch that you need to do. And we cover that in Cardone University in our cold call training session. I think a lot of times the reason MLM does have an 80% attrition rate is that there is no process that's standardized, that can be followed, that can be duplicated, that can be run out. And so one of the things that's awesome about Cardone University is that we do provide a complete cold call script. We help you develop it. We build it out. If anybody that's watching this wants to get on Cardone U for a couple days to just dig in there and tinker around with it, and whether your challenge is cold calling, prospecting, following people up, the actual selling, or closing a deal, we've got solutions for everybody there. And you can just reach out to me, david@grantcardone.com, or just hit up cardoneuniversity.info. Scott's raising his hand.
I'm sorry. I'm such a teacher. I can't help it. The other essential point of working with an expert, like you're interested in my company, great. Let me have you speak with somebody. Is that I'm learning. While I'm listening to my quote unquote expert talk to my prospect, I'm learning how to do it constantly. That's how I got decent at this over the years, is I just keep hearing people do it over and over again, and I'm a sponge. It's very like kind of old school apprenticeship. Yeah. You know?
You're on Cardone U too.
I am. I love Cardone U. Love Cardone U. Favorite.
Plug at the end. So yeah, if anybody that's watching this, you want free access to it, give me a call at 310-777-0352, and I'll hook you up with some free access to the program on us.
Very worth it.
Thank you guys for watching. Thanks, you, Scott, for sharing your.
I got to grab this call, but we'll talk.
You got it, brother. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay.